Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasya Deshatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone may kindly fold their hands and repeat the following two short mantras. Yes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 This second mantra is less known, so you have to listen a bit more attentively, but it's not so difficult. Om Surabhyai Namaha.
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 Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Is it okay if I can introduce you?
Hmm?
Can I introduce you?
So, Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for coming for this wonderful program. Just wanted to give you a brief on His Holiness. Intro on His Holiness. Bhakti Raghava Swami Maharaj. So, although I had the good fortune of having association of Maharaj multiple times here in Canada, but since Maharaj is here and since many of you are here for the first time, I'd just like to give you a small brief about Maharaj. So Maharaj, as you may not know, Maharaj is a resident of Toronto. I mean, is originally from Canada, and he's originally from Northern Ontario. Maharaj has studied about 7 years in Quebec in a seminary. So anything and everything, if you have questions about churches, I think Maharaj can answer all those
Roman
questions.
Catholic Seminary.
Roman Catholic Seminary.
That's why I know there's a Roman Catholic church here.
So Maharaj completed his Bachelor of Arts degree here from University of Ottawa and majoring in philosophy and social psychology. And before joining the Ottawa Temple in '74, Maharaj worked as a social worker and counselor in Ontario. Maharaj was initiated by Srila Prabhupada as Sri Raghava Pandit Das Brahmachari in 1974. He spent 2 years at the Ottawa Temple before relocating to India, where he served in Mayapur. Mayapur is one of our headquarters temple in India.
It is our world headquarters.
It is our world headquarters.
Not just one of them.
It's our world headquarters. And Maharaj served in Mayapur as the regional director of Namahatta. And Maharaj, how would you say Namahatta in English? Congregational preaching.
Yeah.
Congregational preaching. Maharaj has taken a lot of pain and strain by going by walks and bicycles, preaching from villages to village. He has experience in all of those facets. Maharaj served in Kolkata as the director of the Bhakti Vedanta Youth Services, and in Secunderabad as a temple president for a total of 18 consecutive years before returning to Canada in the year '92. And Maharaj has accepted the Renounce Order in 1985 and serves as an initiating guru in 1990. Maharaj is primarily focused, and he spent the last 36 years in working on Srila Prabhupada. This is Srila Prabhupada, for those of you who don't know. He is the founder of our movement, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Prabhupada did do what he had to do in limited time, but there was still 50% of what Srila Prabhupada wanted to do, and that is Daiva Varnashrama, or living in self-sustainability in Krishna consciousness. For the last 36 years, Maharaj has been focused on working day and night in order to achieve that particular goal of Srila Prabhupada. He's been successful in countries like Cambodia, Indonesia, parts of India, and also in many places here in Quebec and in other places in Canada as well. Maharaj primarily is doing a talk on making Vrindavan villages in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, etc. So this has been Maharaj's focus. He's been very successful. I personally have been inspired by many of his disciples, you know, how much ever I say, it's less to glorify Maharaj. So Maharaj, please, if any mistakes, kind for you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, we can test this to see if it will project. Yeah. So we'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming to this program this evening. We'd like to thank our host for inviting us also to make this presentation. Yeah, sometimes there were hiccups with. I should remove it.
It is connected.
Huh?
It is connected.
It is connected.
But I
eh?
think it's a setting.
Yeah, setting.
Can you do it?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it.
Wonderful machines that keep us on our toes sometimes. We means a number of devotees and myself are promoting a particular theme, and we will be touching on this this evening. The theme is make Vrindavan villages. Yes. And to help us understand more easily, more clearly, we need to know something about what is very commonly known, we could say, in India, and now by the grace and mercy of our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, the term Sanatan Dharma is gradually becoming known more and more all over the world. Sanatan, of course, means eternal, and Dharma, very often people understand Dharma as religion. There is some aspect of truth. However, Dharma is not exactly the same as religion. Dharma is referring to the, we could say, original and natural quality of something. Everything has a particular quality. Everything has a particular nature. Prabhupada used to give the example, salt is salty, sugar is sweet, isn't it? They look alike, but when we taste them, we know. If by mistake we put some salt in our coffee, we will immediately understand that we made a mistake. So everything has its particular nature, and all living entities also have a particular nature, actually same nature. And that nature is to actually render service. Just like In a family, children will be serving the parents. In a community or in a nation, people will be serving the government. And even people who are on the top, they serve the nation. Service is a common factor or denominator. And we come to know from the ancient writings called the Vedas. Veda means knowledge. Vedic knowledge is different from other types of, we could say, scriptures. Scriptures, when we say scripture, we generally refer to what has been revealed. There are many saintly books, we could say, saintly instructions. The difference, one of the major difference, if not the major difference with the Vedas is that the Vedas are not to be traced in terms of time because they are eternal in nature. The Vedic knowledge we understand from the books themselves. Vedic knowledge is revealed at the beginning of every creation. Here in the Western world especially, we are those from Christian background, like myself. We understand history in terms of linear time. There is a beginning, middle, and an end, isn't it? There's a creation, there is maintenance, and then after some time there is destruction of the world. Whereas in the Vedic culture, the Vedic concept from the writings of the Vedas, we understand that time is cyclic, just like every year. Now we are seeing the early beginnings of spring. So spring comes, after spring is summer, after summer is fall or autumn, then comes winter. And then we know that after the winter, again spring will come. So it is like this. The Vedic knowledge is therefore given or revealed at the beginning of every, we call yuga, in terms of cycles, time cycles. There are 4 yugas, like there are 4 seasons, Satya Yuga, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yuga. We are living now in Kali Yuga, the fourth of the 4 cycles, and I guess we can compare it to winter. Of course, people in Canada love winter, but winter is generally, cold. We can't go out. So many things we cannot do easily. So we are living presently in this age of Kali. And some of the symptoms of this age is that people live for a very short time, people have less intelligence, less memory, and it is described as the age of quarrel and misunderstanding and forgetfulness. So many negativities are there in this age of Kali, and it makes it difficult in general for people to even understand about this concept of dharma. Now dharma, as I was mentioning, is not exactly the same as religion. Religion is something we can change, whereas dharma, once we are able to kind of capture what is dharma, and dharma is a universal concept. And we will see here actually how dharma is teaching us 3 very important concepts. In Sanskrit, we use a lot of terms of Sanskrit because the Vedic knowledge is revealed and has been put in writing in Sanskrit. But fortunately, we don't need to know Sanskrit. I mean, I don't know Sanskrit. I've never studied Sanskrit. Well, I studied for 1 month, so practically I didn't really study Sanskrit. Fortunately, one can become advanced in spiritual knowledge. One can also be fully successful in life without knowing Sanskrit if one knows about the principles of dharma. Now those who are devotees of Krishna consciousness, they kind of specialize, we could say, on this topic of dharma. As a matter of fact, our acharyas, acharya means teachers, they especially focus on subject matters connected with dharma. What I would like to present this evening is, of course, on the topic of dharma, but very often maybe less understood. There are two levels of dharma. Two levels of dharma being the spiritual dimension of dharma, which generally we are knowledgeable, somewhat knowledgeable about. And then there is the material level of dharma, which is, I would say, less known, especially in modern day society. It's less known by people in general, and it is also less known by many of our devotees. Yeah. So hopefully this presentation can help us deepen more our understanding of this very important principle of dharma. I've put this on a PowerPoint to kind of gradually, there are not so many slides, but gradually bring us through some of the important aspects of dharma. One of our foremost teachers, well known, who travels, I mean he's called a Mahajan. Maha means great and Jana means person. Mahajana. Mahajana means great teacher. We have 12 great such personalities. They are, we could say, spiritual authorities. And one of them, of course, is Narada Muni. Narada Muni, Muni means actually very knowledgeable. And this personality travels sometimes in the material world, sometimes in the spiritual world. There's these two levels of Krishna. Yes? The little sound, is it?
Yeah.
The little sound is getting to some people.
It's getting recorded now.
Oh,
Sorry.
no problem. Yeah. Yes. Still there?
I think it's the feedback. It's okay.
It's okay. Just don't hear it. Just transcend. Right? So, yeah, Sanatana Dharma and two features. The second slide I will skip because it's too small and also a little bit, yeah, it's a work in progress. Actually, the second slide, I didn't make it, so it has a lot of interesting information. So this, yeah, one aspect is, we say Daiva Varnashrama Dharma. Now, that needs some explanation. The word dharma, of course, is there. We spoke briefly. Daiva actually means divine or spiritual. And Varnashrama, it is the material aspect or the material system, we could say, which has been created by Lord Krishna for all of us who are here in the material world. So it is related to our material condition, our material body, and there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita which is well known by everyone. Chatur Varnam Maya Sistam Gunakarma Vibhagasaha. But this reference actually is, that is 413, that is explaining about But in this purport of 231, Srila Prabhupada actually explains about this level of dharma. Later on you can look at it. Now, on the other side of the spectrum is the spiritual dharma that we refer to as Jaiva dharma. Jaiva is a term that was especially coined, we could say, by one of our great acharyas, Srila Bhakti Thakur. And there's a book, as a matter of fact, called Jaiva Dharma. Means Jaiva is referring to the jiva. Jiva means the soul, isn't it? So what is the dharma of the soul? So what is spiritual swadharma? We use the word swat to mean original. So these are the two levels of dharma we will be looking at. And obviously it is important for all of us to know as much as possible regarding these two natures, because we are having these two natures. We have this material body, we are living in the material world, but inside this body is the soul, or the Atma, or the Jiva. So both these aspects of Dharma are actually very deep subject matters. They are very scientific, and they're based on eternal concepts. One of the beauties of Vedic knowledge or Vedic culture is that once we are able to grasp, to understand some of these basic concepts, then we can adjust our lives quite easily. But until and unless we know about these basic concepts, then it is more difficult to properly live or execute our daily lives. So now we will go a little bit deeper into the subject matter. I think for those coming for the first time, there's a lot of Sanskrit words here.
No, I some
Sambandha, Jnana. Jnana is quite generally known, means knowledge actually. And Sambandha has to do with relationship. So what we are trying to do in this presentation is we have these two levels of dharma, the material level and the spiritual level. And we will look at what is meant to be the relationship, the whole understanding of relationship and identity in regards to Sambandha. Sambandha actually means relationship. There are three very important concepts which have been given to us by another great personalities. We have many great personalities from whom we get knowledge, information, experience, etc. This particular personality appeared 500 years ago, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he presented this whole, it's the same philosophy basically, but nicely in these three concepts of what is called Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha is what we're looking at right now. Sambandha has to do with what is our identity. And then based on our identity, well, what kind of relationships we can establish, isn't it? Once we have knowledge of Sambandha, then we can easily go to the second level, which is Abhideya, which means activities, isn't it? For example, when one begins to understand that he is something different from or beyond his body, means that we are spirit souls, then we begin activities in relation to the spirit soul, isn't it? We go to a temple, we take up activities of meditation. We do many things that will be helping us become more knowledgeable or advanced in terms of our identity. So there is sambandha, relationship, abhidaya, activity, and then all of this is meant to lead us to the third level, which is called prayojana, means what is the end result? Where are we going? What do we want to achieve? What is the goal? So we'll be looking at this, very briefly, in terms of these two main divisions, the material division and the spiritual division. And as we will look at these two levels, then we will more easily be able to understand, well, where are we, either individually or in modern day society, in terms of these two levels of reality. And of course, we will begin to understand that we have, in many ways, let's say, speaking about modern day society or modern, let's say, civilization, we have largely gone astray or deviated from these two aspects. And hopefully this will help us understand what we can do to rectify the situation. So where were we? Oh, somehow, yes. So yes, these are the two levels or features of dharma. Daiva Varnashrama Dharma, which deals with the material, and then Jaiva Dharma, which deals with the spiritual. So yes, Sambandha. So what is the identity or and also relationship in terms of the material level? Yes. The word Varnashrama is made up, as we know, of two words, a Varna and Ashrama. So Prabhupada, many times he would say, first is Varna. Varna has to do with our, we could say, social divisions in society, our nature, our material nature. We will see this in a few minutes. Once we know what is our material nature, then we can more easily understand or go from Varna to Ashrama. Ashrama has to do with spiritual divisions in society. Those who are maybe less familiar with the whole concept, we refer to Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. We refer to Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. So, yeah, this is the reference in the Bhagavad Gita that is explaining this system. This is an external system. This is a material system. It is referred to in one of our important writings, means the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 7th canto. 7th canto has 15 chapters. Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the important writings given to us by the author of the Vedic literatures, Srila Vyasadeva. And he speaks very elaborately on the subject matter of Varnashrama in the last 5 chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning from chapter 11, which is entitled The Perfect Society for Social Divisions. So social divisions actually means a Varna. And then chapter 12, the following chapter, deals with the spiritual divisions in society, which is ashrama. We'll come back to that, because the whole subject matter is giving this kind of comparison. So this is the material aspect, and now we go to the spiritual aspect of dharma, jaiva dharma, as we mentioned, and it has to do with understanding our spiritual nature as being, we were mentioning a little earlier, dharma, the essence of dharma is to render service. So the spirit soul by nature is meant to render service. The perfection of service, of course, is to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And there's a whole subject matter called rasa that has to do with, it's connected actually with relationships. Rasa has to do with a kind of attraction or taste, isn't it? Just like in the material world, we have in family life, parents have a particular relationship with their children. In the material world, people have a friendly relationship. There are different types of relationships. There are basically 5 types of relationships, which are actually explained as being a reflection of the original relationships that exist in the spiritual world. We have a natural attraction in the material world because it is our nature to be attracted. But we are meant to be attracted to something which is actually eternal or permanent, and that has to do with things of the soul and things of, we could say, the super soul. The super soul means the original personality of Godhead. So, means it is important for us to have knowledge of these 2 levels of identity. What is meant to be our identity spiritually on the right side, and materially as well. So that is Sambandha Gyan. Yes. Now, Abhideya, we mentioned a little earlier, has to do with activity, isn't it? So activity. We find this term very often, what we call Vedic prescribed duties. Vedic prescribed duties. Take this. Yeah, it's okay. Actually, this one is this is from Mongolia. And in Mongolia they wear this because it's 26 below zero. Now summer is coming. So, yeah. So we were mentioning how what are the social divisions? Brahmana means the intellectual class. These are, of course, known to devotees. Kshatriya, the administrative class. Vaishya, the mercantile class. And Shudra means the worker class. There's a direct relationship between the varnas and the ashramas. For example, one who is by nature, this is not according to birth, but according to our natural qualities. As a matter of fact, in the Vedic culture, when majority of people were in villages, because that's an important concept which we either have forgotten or maybe have never known. Vedic culture is primarily an agrarian-based culture. An agrarian-based culture means majority of people live in villages. They are actually it is actually recommended that we live in a more natural kind of setting or environment, and we'll come to that a little bit later on to understand why. So one of the important, we could say, duties, the Brahmanas, they are the guides of society. They're described as the head of society. So in villages, there used to be, let's say, Brahmanas who were giving knowledge and guiding or teaching. One of the foremost responsibilities of a Brahmana in a village is to actually identify the Varna of a young boy. Something that that is practically not followed in modern day society, or even not followed, I guess, because it's not known. The idea is that at a certain age, that is generally done between the ages of maybe 10 and 15. It is during that period that one's nature becomes more easily understood. And those who are Brahmanas, because in the village people know one another practically, from birth. And so Brahmanas, that is one of the important responsibilities, because unless we know what is a Varna, what is a social, meant to be the social, let's say, duty or responsibility, then the ashram will not be so easily known. In other words, there's a link, a connection between a Varna and ashrama. Here, the first one, Brahmana, if you look on the right side, someone who is a Brahmana, he will, the four ashramas, the four spiritual divisions in society are open to him. Whereas one who is a Kshatriya, administrator, only 3 of the 4 ashrams are open to him. One who is a Vaishya, 2 of the ashrams. So society is arranged based on these 2 aspects of Varna and Ashrama. So that is what is meant to be the activities in terms of material activities. And also something very important in the Vedic culture, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it is village-based. Purposely, it is village-based. That's one of the reasons why today, in modern day society, since the last maybe few hundred years, we think we are progressing and advancing modern day civilization. But if we analyze closely, we are actually deviating from some of the basic Vedic norms and principles. Why? Because on the right side here, there are 3 categories that are actually essential in the Vedic culture. They're called actually gifts of nature. God, Krishna, has created this material world basically to facilitate all of us to revive our original spiritual consciousness. And he has arranged it in such a way that when we associate with these 3 gifts of nature, they are to be understood as mothers, actually. Just like ordinary mother is very important for a child, because the mother will nourish a child physically by giving her milk. She will nourish the child also by giving love and affection, so that the child will grow well, both physically as well as emotionally. And of course in the Vedic culture, spiritually as well. So this is nicely mentioned by another great Acharya personality, Srila, grandfather Bhishmadev in Mahabharata. Yes, please come in. Somebody should take it.
Just open. Maybe somebody is
No,
having.
Prabhu's already. He's already.
Yes. So these are considered three fundamental, we could say, principles that we especially find in the small village of Vrindavan. I mean, those who are practicing devotees will know about Vrindavan. The village of Vrindavan is where Lord Krishna performed his lila, or his pastimes, 5,000 years ago. And in the village of Vrindavan is especially important for us for, I would say, two main reasons, directly connected with this, with the topic we are presenting here. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, the small village of Vrindavan, some cherries there, or whatever. Yeah. Why is Vrindavan, I will ask the question, why is Vrindavan so special and important for all of us? Two main reasons. Yes.
No,
But mention only one.
Because 5,000 years before, Lord Sri Krishna personally showed his sweet pastimes.
Yes, because 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, manifested and displayed his pastimes. Yes. Okay, that's a good beginning. Can we have something maybe a little bit more specific? What was, or what is the significance of those pastimes? Yes.
Is a replica of original Vrindavan in Kingdom of God.
Kingdom of God?
It's a replica.
Replica.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a replica of the Kingdom of God. Yes, that is correct also. Anything else? Yes?
They were centered around cows and land and agriculture and earth.
Yes, okay, getting warmer and warmer. Closer and closer, yes. Actually, the three answers are touching the 2 points I want to make. One is that Vrindavan, the activities of the residents of Vrindavan, especially exemplified the topmost level of spirituality, of transcendence, which culminated actually in the intimate, loving relationship that Krishna demonstrated and displayed with all of the different residents of Vrindavan, culminating, of course, in the topmost and most intimate of relationship with the gopis of Vrindavan. So in other words, Krishna, Vrindavan is especially attractive to us, for all of us, and most important for all of us, because it is in that Vrindavan, in those Vrindavan pastimes, that we can begin to understand, that we can begin to appreciate the level of devotion, the intensity of love and devotion of different residents of Vrindavan in the various rasas, or relationships that were displayed. So that is the spiritual dimension, yes. And of course you mentioned about cows and land. So in other words, Vrindavan simultaneously, in addition to displaying the spiritual realm, which is, as you rightly mentioned, a replica of the original pastimes that are eternally going on in the spiritual world. So those pastimes are reflected, displayed in the material world. That's why it is called Bhoma Vrindavan, the Vrindavan in the material world. And in terms of the activities, they are connected especially with cows and land, which means agriculture, which is nicely described also in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the perfect definition or the formula for economic development is given. And that formula for economic development is, practically speaking, unknown in modern day society. It is unknown in modern day society by the general population, and it is also not unknown to devotees, but it is not understood. It is not understood by devotees, otherwise we'd be doing it. Those who are householders, grihastha we call, one of the important duties or responsibilities of householders is to provide, isn't it, for the family members, is to provide not only, in the Vedic culture, actually householders, not only are they meant to provide for their immediate family members, but they are meant to provide for the brahmacharis, those who are vanaprastha and sannyasis. They have a big responsibility, yeah. And the recommended activity for the vast majority of householders is in this formula, or this one of the instructions given in the Bhagavad Gita 1844. Krishi gorakshavanijam vaisha karma swabhavajam. Krishi means agriculture. Goraksha. Go means cow, raksha means protection. Cow protection. And vanijam, trade. Trade based on cows and land, isn't it? Yeah. Produce from natural produce from the land, etc. So that's why earlier I was mentioning about this theme or this campaign that we will actually be launching at the beginning of May. The theme of that campaign being Make Vrindavan Villages. Let's try to understand a little bit. Since the days of the French Revolution, you haven't heard about the French Revolution? Or the Industrial Revolution. You know, we go back here a few hundred years. In Europe, there was two major events that took place that have shaped the present state of affairs in the world today, and that have actually basically brought us very much away from what is meant to be the more simple and natural way of living. And here we all find ourselves in Toronto. Or Montreal, or Vancouver, or Zurich, or whatever, you know. Means we have, since the last century, have been on an ever-increasing trend towards more and more urbanization, isn't it? The world, people have been abandoning villages. This is prominent, especially in places like India. In North America, I mean, like in the US, I believe less than 5% of people are living in villages. Vast majority are in towns and cities. When we read and the more we understand about, let's say, Vedic culture, then the more we begin to understand how this is not the way we are meant to live, isn't it? Largely because we have become disconnected with these three gifts of nature: cows, land, and the third one is knowledge, cultivation of knowledge. Cultivation not only of spiritual knowledge, but also of material knowledge. And therefore, this is the major problem in modern day society. We are missing out, we have forgotten, or we have rejected the spiritual dimension of life, not knowing that we are spirit soul and that the primary goal and purpose of life is to become what we call self-realized. That's on one side. And on the other side, we are engaged in all kinds of activities that are very destructive. You know, like take agriculture. Modern day agriculture, what do we call modern day agriculture? Agro-business, right? Yeah. Agro-business, dairy business, dairy industry. Dairy has become an industry. We are exploiting the cows. We are sending, you know, if cows don't give milk according to their quota, you know, we send them to the slaughterhouse. We are a very, very destructive society. Prabhupada actually would use the term killing civilization. Modern day society is actually a killing civilization, both physically as well as in terms of the soul. In Sanskrit, it's called Atmahana. Atmahana, killer of the soul. When we don't, it's just like if you have a child and you don't provide that child with food, well, the body will not grow properly. The child will become sick. The child will die. I mean, that's one of many major global problems that we have. Another one is what is termed as desertification. Desertification is what naturally happens when for decades and decades we use chemical fertilizers and chemical pesticides and machinery like tractors, etc., to grow food. In other words, we are exploiting, we are polluting, we are destroying, so much so that it is estimated that maybe up to 70% of our topsoil on the planet is practically gone. We're not able to properly grow food or produce food that is healthy food. And we are working in ways which are actually also not ideal. Vedic culture promotes what is called localized living. Village life is localized living. You don't need a car. You know, you just walk to your field, isn't it? So this second aspect of activity, abhideya gyan, knowledge of activity, is important for us to understand what is meant to be the ideal spiritual, what are meant to be the ideal spiritual activities in terms of the spirit soul, and what are meant to be the ideal material activities that we call prescribed duties, that we should refer to as Vedic prescribed duties. I mean, everyone has duties, you know. I mean, we were coming in this morning I went to the Toronto Temple for Bhagavatam class, and I was surprised, you know. I mean, so early in the morning, I mean, I saw hundreds and hundreds of cars, you know, in front of us and in the back of us, because this is how we have created, you know, modern day society, where if one doesn't have a car, one cannot come to this program, or one cannot go to work, whatever. We have created a very complicated setup, modern day setup, and because of this ongoing, ever-increasing urbanization, industrialization, mechanization, we have separated ourselves from the, let's say, Vedic values of life, which are especially to be found when we live in a more simple manner, connected with cows, connected with the land, connected with nature, and connected with daily cultivation of knowledge. Just like every day, those who are devotees, they are meant to hear, to read, to study, to discuss about spiritual subject matters, either Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. So now we will go to the next slide, which is just showing us what are the four varnas, right? So the four varnas on the left side, This is the Brahmana, the intellectual class, and he has three, well, that'll come in the next slide actually, three mandatory daily activities, right? A Brahmana in society, he is meant to study every day. He's meant to study Shastra. He will spend, actual Brahmana will spend hours and hours every day to study. Second activity, this is like mandatory activity, actual Brahmana will worship. He will spend some time to personally worship the Lord. Generally Brahmanas have like Shila or have deities, isn't it? And then third activity of a Brahmana, he will give in charity. Because very often people will donate to Brahmana, but Brahmana, he is satisfied with the minimum, so he, whatever excess is there, he will be giving. Without Brahmanas, society cannot function properly. Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, he would explain that, I have gone to the Western countries from India to actually re-establish, put a head on society. Society without such personalities becomes what is called headless society, without proper direction. Then of course the second Varna is called Kshatriya Varna. They are the protectors of society. There are three main activities for Kshatriyas: protecting, administrating, and providing aid or assistance, welfare activities in times of need. The third Varna, well, of course, is not Krishna. Krishna is in the center. The Varnas he creates. So to the left of Krishna is a third Varna that's called Vaishya. They're the ones who produce food, who care for cows, and Shudra, those who are servants. Ultimately, everyone is a servant. We put here, might be a little bit small, how Brahmana is a servant leader. They're natural, basically two divisions in society. Those who are natural leaders and those who are meant to be natural followers. And just like in a school or college, there's a teacher, he's teaching, and there's a student, he's receiving knowledge. So society is meant to be arranged in such a way that those who are meant to be in leadership, there are three natural leaders. The Brahmana is a natural leader, the Kshatriya is a natural leader, and also the Vaishya, because they have dependents, isn't it? But their foremost mindset is that they are accepting this position of leadership, but for rendering service, to help actually other members in society. And so that covers basically the four Varnas. And this is what I was beginning to explain a little bit. These are the three mandatory duties of a Brahmana: to study, to worship, and to give in charity. Then three optional activities: to teach what one has learned, and then what is the other one?
Officiating at Yajna.
Officiating activities. Yes.
Accept charity.
And to accept charity as well. So for each of those varnas, there are specific duties and responsibilities. These are all, the references are there as well. So in other words, the Vedas, this is all knowledge that is coming from the Vedas. The Vedas are meant to be like serving as guide. They are like the manual, the guide manual for members in society. And these are all explained both, especially in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why these two literatures especially are of foremost importance to all of us. Okay, so we have looked at what are material activities. Now we will look at what are meant to be spiritual activities, activities of the soul. And these are some of the activities of the soul. This is for our individual personal advancement. We know the 9 processes or activities, beginning with Sravanam. Sravanam means hearing. Sravanam, Kirtanam, chanting, like that. 9 spiritual transcendental activities that we can perform, should perform on a daily basis. And then there is a whole very scientific, nicely explained by our acharyas. It's called From Shraddha to Prema. Where are we meant? What is the ultimate goal? And Shraddha means the initial phase, means to have some attraction or some interest or some faith in the whole subject matter. And slowly, gradually, this is very nicely and scientifically explained by our teachers or our acharyas. And then we have different books, like the last line here is referring to the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is explaining what is called different levels of bhakti. The essence, of course, not only in terms of spiritual level, but also in terms of the material level, is to perform bhakti, or devotion, ultimately devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So that is for our personal, and then in terms of our, let's say, welfare for others within society. Now this is something that may be less known to some devotees. Actually, this is a quote from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bharat bhumite hoila manusya janamazar janma sarta kori kora para upakar. So janma sarta kori means for our own selves. Janma means birth. We perform these activities, and then kora para upakar means performing welfare activities for others. Basically, we have these 2 missions in life. Anyone who doesn't understand these 2 missions in life, then one's life will not actually be successful. One is in terms of our individual, personal, spiritual advancement, isn't it? And secondly, when the Lord descends in the material world, when Krishna comes, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita, Pritranaya sadhunam vinashaya saduskritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He comes to re-establish the principles of dharma. And this is what, we are speaking about, Sanatan Dharma. So these same eternal principles the Lord establishes. Now, this is something that is taken from an essay written by Srila Prabhupada, The 4 Movements. ISKCON as a society. Srila Prabhupada, many years ago, when he was still a householder, he wrote a very important essay. So I always ask the question, how many know about this essay called Gita Nagari?
I know Gita.
You know the place Gita.
Not the farm Gita Nagari. We have a farm in America, in the U.S. called Gita Nagari. Anyone been to Gita Nagari? Oh, okay, congratulations. So they didn't talk to you about the origin of Gita Nagari. Gita Nagari is originally an essay. Gita means Bhagavad Gita. Nagari means Nagara. Nagara means town, village, community, like that. So in other words, Srila Prabhupada, way back, that was 1956. Even before 1956, in 1949, Srila Prabhupada makes reference to these 4 movements. One can still find out about it by going to we have what is called a folio, Veda base. Anyone know about Veda base? Okay, yeah, Veda base, folio, yeah. All of the teachings, all of the books written by Srila Prabhupada, all of the letters, all of the conversations, etc., are all in one place, and it's great, to do research and whatnot. So in that essay, Srila Prabhupada, he wrote down his vision of how to introduce and spread the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And I'm just going to, it's on the board here. The first he called it Sankirtan movement, means introducing the chanting of the holy name. And what do we do every day? Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Whenever the opportunity is there, we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is the recommended mantra or chanting for this age of Kali, the Yuga Dharma. So chanting of the holy name is how Lord Chaitanya began his movement, isn't it? 500 years ago in the streets of Navadvip. And that is how our founder Acharya began in Thompson Square Park, isn't it?
Yes.
50 plus years ago, by introducing the chanting of the holy name. And then simultaneously we also distribute books. So this is the first of 4 movements that Prabhupada spoke about. He gave these names, he gave these titles, Sankirtan movement. The second movement, which is a natural sequence. Once we go out, once we, let's say, introduce people to this Vedic knowledge, to the chanting, people need a place to come. So that is called temple worship movement, establishing temples, which is, as we all know, during his 12 years of traveling and preaching, Srila Prabhupada established 108 temples in so many different countries. The third movement is called spiritual initiation movement, whereby it's the equivalent to what we call congregational development within our society. Namhatta, Bhakti Vriksha, youth preaching, so many different types of prison preaching also, life membership. This is all connected with giving an opportunity for people to learn more about spiritual life and to become, let's say, committed and to understand that actually that is the primary goal and purpose of life, by becoming self-realized, by becoming disconnected with the modes of material nature that are tying us down in this material world. And the fourth movement is connected with what we are trying to explain here in terms of Varnashrama Dharma. Prabhupada gave the name classless society, which initially might be a little misleading. Classless society means that anyone in any of these categories, in any of the material categories of Varna or spiritual categories of asrama, everyone is focused on the same activity, serving Krishna. Everyone is practicing Bhakti Yoga, isn't it? So in this way, the more individuals are actually nicely, properly practicing, then there will be more harmony amongst members of society. There's 2 types of varnashrama, actually. We are speaking about Daiva, divine varnashrama, but then there is a material varnashrama, which is coined actually by our acharyas as asuric, demoniac, or not good, we could say, varnashrama, because it's basically on the bodily platform. Our acharyas have specifically, since the time of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, have introduced the term Daiva, or Daiva means divine or spiritual. And in our context, especially, it means devotional activities. Okay, we just have a few more slides to go through. Let's see. Very big topic here, Vedic education. In the Vedic culture, Vedic education is gender-based. There's education for boys and there's a different separate education for girls. Actually, even in America, we go back 100 years back, there were colleges for boys and colleges for men, colleges for women. Now today, of course, we have coeducation, which is not ideal and which is not approved, let's say, by Vedic culture. So for boys, we have what is called formal there's two types of education. Formal education on one side, and on the other side is non-formal. Formal has to do with Gurukul, especially for Brahmanas, and where they study 14 specific books of knowledge. And also, Srila Prabhupada introduced what is called Varnashram colleges. And then we have non-formal. Non-formal education is actually for the majority of people, which is connected with skill-oriented activities, and which is connected with agriculture, cow protection, cottage industry, etc. And for girls, we have what is called non-formal education, or Sri Dharma. And we have the references, of course, in especially the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are 64 arts and sciences that are meant to be studied by both men and women, and a lot of these are less known in modern day society as well. So now we go to the last section of our presentation. It's like, what is the end goal? Where are we going with all of this? Prayojana Gyan, knowledge of the ultimate goal. So, in terms of the material side, in terms of the material body, well, as we mentioned earlier, from the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, we should be working towards having what is called an ideal or perfect social society, social divisions in society, as well as perfect spiritual divisions that are called Varna and Ashrama, which will lead us to a replica, as we were mentioning a little earlier, of what is meant to be the ideal living condition, which will be reflecting the original village of Vrindavan. That's why this theme we are mentioning a little earlier means all of us should try to understand the importance and the need of reviving village life. Prabhupada mentioned how modern day society, he used a very strong word to indicate that it's not at all ideal. Prabhupada mentioned modern day society is a doomed society because it is based on unsustainable principles. And all of us actually are, who are part of this modern day society, it is very unpredictable. And therefore, for that reason, for a number of reasons, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to establish communities that eventually would be reflecting village communities, Vedic village communities, that are based on self-sufficiency, on sustainability. So that is where we are going in terms of when we agree to work within the God-created, God-given system of Varnashrama. Then ideally we want to revive this Vedic culture, which is based on village life. That's on the spiritual level, and on the material level. On the spiritual level, we speak of, in terms of the spirit soul, spiritual body, we want to develop what is called our love for Krishna, and ultimately we want to return to the original Vrindavan in the spiritual world. So in other words, we have an opportunity. When we follow this material system that Krishna has created, we have an opportunity to create this replica that was there when Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago. Even up to quite recently in India, villages were of that nature. People in all the villages were having access to land, were having cows, etc., like that. In other words, when we agree to work within the frame given by Krishna, this helps us. This is more conducive for awakening our spiritual consciousness. So in other words, there's a direct link, there's a direct connection with where we live, how we live, what is our lifestyle, and how more easily we can revive our original spiritual consciousness. Yeah. Okay. And this is our last slide here. These are some of the books that are dealing with these two subject matters of Daiva Varnashrama. I mentioned about Gita Nagari. Then this second book on the top called Speaking About Varnashrama is very, very important. Then there's other books, Make Vrindavan Village, Traditional Education, Modernity is Killing Civilization, and the standard spiritual books that we are familiar with, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar Devotion, Chaitanya Charitamrita, etc. like that. So, I hope the subject matter was not too philosophical. It's very important to kind of grasp the essence of hopefully what we try to present here. In terms of dharma, we cannot live without dharma. And we need to understand that dharma exists on these two levels, and both of them are equally important, and they are interconnected. As a matter of fact, Prabhupada one time, I'll close on this point, and we can take maybe some questions or comments. Prabhupada explained that in order to more quickly and more easily awaken and develop our spiritual consciousness, then the more we are in sync or in line with the system that Krishna has given us, then this will accelerate the development of spiritual qualities. This will accelerate our advancement in spiritual consciousness. Yes. This is our message this evening for all of you. So now we have a clock here? Clock.
It's 7:30 now. 7:40.
7:40.
7:40.
Okay. Some comments or questions? Yes.
Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class, Maharaj. Very, very grateful to you. Maharaj, one of the slides I saw is classless Varna, and I was quite, I'm still confused.
Yes,
Because Varnas and Ashramas have got clear 4 classes each.
Yes,
So
I think I went quickly on that point. Classless society is the term that Srila Prabhupada used to identify the 4th of the movements. And classless, yeah, generally we think what classless means, no classes, right? Some people would love that there would be no classes because some people think it would be more simple. But when Prabhupada explains actually in this essay, Gita Nagari, that classless means, it's easy to understand if we explain that classless means clashless. When all of the members of the 4 Varnas, when all the members of the 4 ashramas are engaged in Bhakti, devotional service, then there is no clash. There will be harmony. So in that sense, Prabhupada was explaining we cannot do away with the natural divisions in society. But when Krishna is not in the center, when Bhakti is not the main focus for all of the members, then we are on the bodily platform. And what clashes is our ahankara, our false ego. Our false ego clashes, isn't it? A Brahmana who is not actually Krishna conscious, he will think, well, I'm a Brahmana, right? I'm superior to others. Kshatriya, same. Those who are in positions of leadership will tend to exploit that position, isn't it? Whereas when we develop the basic spiritual, well, in our case, the devotional aspect, because the essence of spirituality, or what is beyond spirituality. This is an important point explained by Srila Rupa Swami in the Nectar Devotion. There's 3 kinds of happiness. What are the 3 kinds of happiness that one can experience? One is what most people, they only experience that kind of happiness. That's called material happiness. There is such a thing as material happiness, but it's called chapala sukha. Chapala sukha. It is flickering, temporary, not fully. It is very short-lived, not fully satisfying. We are looking for something that is permanent, is continuous. So the second level of happiness is described by Srila Rupa Goswami as spiritual happiness. That spiritual happiness is higher, more satisfying than material happiness, because it brings us above the bodily platform. But it is not the perfection of happiness, because beyond spiritual happiness there is what is called devotional happiness. And devotional happiness is exclusively for those who understand, who accept and understand that there is not only something beyond, let's say, matter, but actually that the nature of Godhead is a person. In other words, that we are able to revive our personal relationship, because the whole world is, is connected with, the whole world turns and is connected with the whole concept of relationship. Love is what the world makes go round, isn't it? Everyone is searching for love, for affection, for happiness, and that comes through relationships. Now, the ultimate and perfectional stage of relationship is when we develop our eternal, natural, individual relationship with Godhead. Godhead means Krishna. So most people who are spiritual are knowing that there is something like some kind of concept of God, but generally it is known or understood as some kind of energy, and we merge in that energy, etc. So there is a kind of happiness there that is called Brahmananda, isn't it? But higher than Brahmananda is those who actually are favored to understand, which is what is explained in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, that God is not only something energy, but God is actually a personality. Of course, a different personality than what we are. His personality, he is described as being Satchit Ananda Vigraha, isn't it? Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Anadi Radir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Yes. So he has a body made of Sat, means eternal body, made of full of Chit, knowledge, and full of Ananda, happiness. We also, being created by him, Mamai Vangsho, Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta, Sanatana. We're also Sanatana, eternal. We also have the same quality of Satchit Ananda. So the perfection of life is to develop that kind of understanding, and therefore, coming back to, let's say, classless society, when we are focused on this aspect of bhakti or devotion, which is very unique in terms of bhakti or devotion or love. Prabhupada explains, we cannot speak of love, we cannot understand love unless there are two. Love means two. Love means an exchange between two individuals, isn't it? So that is especially more easily, let's say, developed when we follow the system that has been created by Krishna. Like that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Someone else, yes.
Maharaj, please forgive my ignorance. My question or rather request is to kindly elaborate on those 4 ashramas, for specifically for Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, 3 for Kshatriyas, 1 and so forth.
Okay.
Specifically on those.
Yes. So the idea is that there is a direct link and connection between what we call varna and ashrama. And that's why I was mentioning how one of the foremost duties and responsibilities of elderly senior brahmanas in a village was to identify first the varna of a young boy. So if one is by nature a brahmana, has the qualities of a brahmana as described in the Bhagavad Gita, then the 4 ashrams means he is meant to take up brahmacharya ashram. He's meant to go to Gurukul. And he has a choice of also entering into the second ashram, which is householder life, Grihastha ashram. One who enters Grihastha ashram, he will also take as a brahmana vanaprastha. And he, and only he, only the brahmana, can also take up the 4th ashram, which means sannyas. Means sannyas is only reserved for those who are brahmanas. Second varna is kshatriya. So kshatriya, for him, there are only 3 open to him. He also can go to Gurukul, isn't it? So he will take up formal education. He also can enter into householder life, and he also can take vanaprastha, but he doesn't take sannyas. Sannyas is reserved for the brahmanas. Third varna is vaishya. Vaishya, 2 ashrams are open. He also can go to Gurukul, and he will enter into householder life. Those are the 2 ashrams for him. Whereas Shudra, 1 ashram means householder life. He doesn't go to Gurukul. He will take up non-formal education. He will take up some particular trade or skill, apprenticeship, and in this way he will make his livelihood, and he will, as a householder, be responsible for members of the family. So that is the scientific system of varna and ashram. Yeah?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay? Yeah. Other?
Maharaj, connected with the Prabhu's question.
Yes.
Even a person who is in the Shudra,
Yes.
he also can rise to the Brahmana level, is it not?
Actually, as Vaishnavas, Vaishnava is way beyond all of this. Vaishnavism. Yeah, Vaishnava is beyond Brahmana. Yeah. So that means that within the system, that's why Daiva Varnashrama, within that system, anyone who is taking up the practice of bhakti can become a self-realized soul, can become a pure devotee. Yes. So, so one, by association, by training, can advance. Yeah, because actually in the Vedic culture, generally, this would be, it's like from the lower varna, generally one rises to the higher varna. But higher than any varna is the practice of bhakti or Vaishnava. But Prabhupada explains, very important point, it is not so easy to be Vaishnava. In order to become Vaishnava, Varnashrama for the vast majority of individuals is necessary. Although Vaishnava is like, if we take a personality like Srila Haridas Thakur. Srila Haridas Thakur was a great renounced personality who could chant 22 hours a day. I mean,
300,000.
yeah, 200,000, 3 lakhs names. So how many Haridas Thakurs do we have in the world? I mean, we cannot imitate such personalities. Someone like Haridas Thakur is above Varnashrama. You see, a pure devotee is above Varnashrama. But because the system of Varnashrama is given by Krishna, because it is created by Krishna, even pure devotees of the Lord, they will respect Varnashrama and generally follow, but they're not obligated to follow the whole general procedure as majority of people are meant to follow. So in other words, the Varnashrama system, although material, when it is performed in the consciousness or in the mentality of devotion or as bhakti, daiva, Varnashrama, then Our foremost, one of our foremost acharyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains a number of things in regards to Varnashrama. He says, for example, that the system of Varnashrama is for the Vaishnavas in their conditioned state. As long as we are still somehow or other connected, even a little bit, with the modes of material nature, we must follow Varnashrama. You see? And he also explains, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that when we perform activities in that consciousness, in this devotional consciousness, those activities don't incur karmic reaction. Those activities become bhakti, devotion. And in a conversation, Prabhupada, because one devotee was asking, but Srila Prabhupada, our Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us just chant Hare Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, chant and dance, which is of course true. That devotee was kind of indicating that, therefore, what is the need of Varnashrama? But Prabhupada, the devotee was telling, actually, when we follow the system, we are Vaishnavas. Prabhupada immediately corrected him by telling, it is not so easy to be Vaishnava. And in order to become Vaishnava, it is necessary to follow that system created by Krishna of Varnashrama, isn't it? So if we look, let's say, in the global picture here, if Varnashrama, Varnashrama is intimately connected with a more simplified lifestyle. Varnashrama is very much connected with interacting with cows, with Mother Nature. You see, because cows, by nature, cows are in the mode of goodness. Before we take up spiritual life, we need to come to the mode of goodness. And when we live a more simplified life, especially when we are interacting with cows being in the mode of goodness, more easily, more naturally, we also develop the mode of goodness. How many of us are interacting with cows? How many of us are interacting with nature? How many of us are growing our own food, growing flowers, natural? How many of us are offering what is natural, what is pure to the Lord? How many of us are eating pure, wholesome food? Isn't it? So we because of this modern artificial lifestyle, we've gone away from what is more, ultimately we've gone away from what is dharma, because dharma means what is natural, what is original, isn't it? So what is materially natural, what is materially original, what is spiritually natural, what is spiritually original, we have deviated from that, and so much so that we find ourselves in a very, difficult, precarious condition in the world. And therefore there's a need. We can begin wherever we are, in whatever condition we may find ourselves, we can begin. For example, we can start to grow some small things in our home. Even people who are not devotional understand the need to reconnect with nature. There are movements in the world today promoting what we call eco-village movements have been there for many decades actually. Coming back to our sources, isn't it? Of course, that means coming back to our spiritual source, our spiritual nature, as well as coming back to our original material nature, material sources. And I'll summarize here an important statement I was mentioning also this morning. In this essay of Gita Nagari, I highly recommend devotees to read this essay. Srila Prabhupada mentions how, we're all anxious to create a universal brotherhood, universal peace in the world. Of course, Bhagavad Gita has the peace formula as well. Srila Prabhupada says, if we can simply understand 3 simple concepts, and then if we can share that with others, then we will become successful and others as well. The first of 3 concepts he mentions, to understand the fatherhood of Godhead. that God is our Father, is our Supreme Father, isn't it? And we take shelter of Him. Secondly, that we understand the motherhood of nature. We say Mother Nature. She provides all of our necessities of life. And the third concept, which makes everything perfect, to understand the childhood of all living entities. Not only human beings, all living entities are children of God, are dependent on God, isn't it? So the fatherhood of Godhead, the motherhood of nature, and the childhood of all living entities is actually the formula for universal brotherhood. Yes.
So Maharaj, one more question. if you
Okay.
pardon. Prabhupada says, Janmana Jayate Sudras, that we are all born Sudras.
Yes, but we don't have to remain Shudras.
Now, sorry? Yes.
We should
But-
have.
Yes, that's right. But I heard you saying that, and for Sudras to be able to progress, they need knowledge.
Yes.
While we know that Sudras are meant to serve all the three upper classes, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, but I heard you saying in Prabhu's question
Yes.
that for Sudras is only one ashrama left, which is Grahasthasrama.
Yes.
So it's very difficult for me to understand why. I can understand Vanaprastha and Sannyasa not for them, but why not Gurukula? Why not Brahmacharya for Sudras? Why not education? Why only Grahastha?
Because by nature, one, Shudra means one who is less intellectual, less inclined to study, more at ease with doing manual things. If you send him to Gurukul, he'll just sleep all the time. Yeah. So according to our different natures, but it doesn't mean that he cannot take up to the process of bhakti, and that is nicely explained also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Zanayati Ashu Vairagam Jnanam Sayada Haitukam. So by the process of bhakti, causeless knowledge, Jnanam, isn't it? And Vairagya, detachment, causeless detachment will come. So anyone who takes up the process of bhakti, then his life becomes perfect, regardless of what category he is within society.
Thank you.
Oh, this is going to be the last question.
How can one get to know their varna? Like, one who is born into a Brahmin family does not mean they are a Brahmin. So how can one eventually get to know their
One will more easily, more naturally come to know about one's varna by living more naturally, by living in a more natural setting. Yes. So if we all go to the village tomorrow, we'll understand more easily our varna. Yeah. There are specific ways that are described and prescribed actually by the acharyas. One of them, for example, is through our, by having one's chart through astrology. One can have some understanding by knowing the family lineage, knowing our grandfather, grandparents, etc., going as far back as possible. So there are specific ways in which one can begin to understand. Normally that is, as we mentioned earlier, known or revealed or established when one is younger. And this is really the last. This is I have a small gift for all of you. Is that okay? Yeah, you should be happy. Everyone likes to get gifts.
Unexpected.
So my gift is actually hidden in this little card. And this, I was mentioning, where is it? Yeah. Whoops. Okay. Anyways, this second book, hopefully it will come up. Yeah. Speaking about Varnashrama, on the top, the second one. So this is one of different books that are here, digital books, and anyone who has a cell phone, you can just, if you have NFC activated, even if you don't, you can just scan here and then you can download this link and in your leisure time have access to these books. and our Gurudev Prabhu will do the honors. So we can maybe end, we can, what we're going to do, we're just going to together just recite the Mahamantra. Everyone can repeat after me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Sri Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Samasta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Gaura Pimanande. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jai Bhakti Raghava Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.
Many will have a shoot with the ring. That's okay.